Good evening, part two. We're doing chapter 24 of The Power of Awareness by Neville Goddard. This chapter is entitled Failure. Okay? And he says, this book would not be complete without some discussion of failure in the attempted use of the law of assumption. Oh, thank you, because I was wondering. It is entirely possible that you either have had or will have a number of failures in this respect, many of them in really important matters. If having read this book, having a thorough knowledge of the application and working of the law of assumption, you faithfully apply it in an effort to attain some intense desire and fail, what is the reason? If to the question, do you persist enough? You can answer yes, and still the attainment of your desire was not realized. What is the reason for failure? The answer to this is the most important factor in the successful use of the law of assumption. The time it takes to assume, the time it takes your assumption to become fact, your desire to be fulfilled, is directly proportionate to the naturalness of your feeling of already being what you want to be, of already having what you desire. Let me read that again. Okay. The time it takes your assumption to become fact, your desire to be fulfilled, is directly proportionate to the naturalness of your feeling of already being what you want to be, of already having what you desire. All righty. The fact that it does not feel natural to you to be what you imagine yourself to be is the secret of your failure. Regardless of your fruit flies, my gosh. Distraction, twinkle, twinkle, distraction. Okie dokie, one more again. The fact that it does not feel natural to you to be what you imagine yourself to be is the secret of your failure. Regardless of your desire, regardless of how faithfully and intelligently you follow the law, if you do not feel natural about what you want to be, you will not be it. If it does not feel natural to you to get a better job, you will not get a better job. The whole principle is vividly expressed by the Bible phrase, you die in your sins. That is from John chapter 8, verse 24. You do not transcend from your present level to the state desired. How can this feeling of naturalness be achieved? The secret lies in one word, imagination. For example, this is a very simple illustration. Assume that you are securely chained to a large, heavy iron bench. You could not possibly run. In fact, you could not even walk. In these circumstances, it would not be natural for you to run. You could not even feel that it was natural for you to run, but you could easily imagine yourself running. In that instant, while your consciousness is filled with your imagined running, you have forgotten that you are bound. In imagination, your running was completely natural. The essential feeling of naturalness can be achieved by persistently filling your consciousness with imagination, imagining yourself being what you want to be or having what you desire. Progress can spring only from your imagination, from your desire to transcend your present level. What you truly and literally must feel is that with your imagination, all things are possible. You must realize that changes are not caused by caprice, but by a change of consciousness. So, not on a whim, not just because you feel like it, but by conscious, persistent change. You may fail to achieve or sustain the particular state of consciousness necessary to produce the effect you desire. But once you know that consciousness is the only reality and is the sole creator of your particular world, and have burnt this truth into your whole being, then you know that success or failure is entirely in your own hands. All righty. I feel I need to read that one again. Okay. Once you know that the consciousness is the only reality and is the sole creator of your particular world, and have burnt this truth into your whole being, then you know that success or failure is entirely in your own hands. Whether or not you are disciplined enough to sustain the required state of consciousness in specific instances has no bearing on the truth of the law itself. That, an assumption, if persisted in, will harden into fact. The certainty of the truth of this law must remain despite great disappointment and tragedy. Even when you see the light of life go out and all the world goes on as though it were still day, you must not believe that because your assumption failed to materialize, the truth that assumptions do materialize is a lie. If your assumptions are not fulfilled, it is because of some error or weakness in your consciousness. So I would say, go back to the different aspects, go back to the different titles of each chapter, the different understandings that each chapter brought, to flesh out this idea of using the law of assumption. Some things you may be stronger at, some things you'll be weaker at, but if you work at a thing long enough, you should be able to increase your skill. Okay? Just go back and listen to the different aspects that we discussed previously. Okay, he says, however, these errors and weaknesses can be overcome. Therefore, press on to the attainment of ever higher levels of feeling that you already are the person you want to be. There you go. Practice makes perfect, yeah? And remember that the time it takes your assumption to become reality is proportionate to the naturalness of being it. Man surrounds himself with the true image of himself. Every spirit builds itself a house, and beyond its house a world, and beyond its world a heaven. Know then that the world exists for you. For you, the phenomenon is perfect. What we are, that only we can see, all that Adam had, all that Caesar could, you have and can do. Adam called his house heaven and earth. Caesar called his house Rome. You perhaps call yourself a cobbler's trade. 100 acres of land, or a scholar's garret. Let line for line and point for point, your dominion is as great as theirs. Yet line for line and point for point, your dominion is as great as theirs, though without fine name. And by the way, thank you, Pastor Michael. The definition of heaven and earth is what was really being spoken about by Jesus. Aligning the mind and the heart space, getting comfortable in your consciousness and your emotional self, feeling fulfilled as a human being, just how you were put here on the earth to live this life. All right. Build, therefore, your own world as fast as you conform your life to the pure idea in your mind that will unfold its great proportion. And I guess that comes from Emerson. Comes from Emerson. Alrighty, so rewind that back because my mouth is getting dry now. I need to drink something. But we're going to continue with chapter 25 next week, and that chapter is called Faith. So thank you for joining me. Practice, 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 and perfect your craft to design your life. That's what we're here for, to perfect our craft of designing our lives. And with that, I appreciate you. Come back again. We will talk later, baby.